Call meeting order.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open Public Meetings Act statement, please.
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting was forwarded to the official township newspapers posted on the bulletin board and the township website on November 3rd, 2022. This meeting is being videotaped and will be on channel.
Roll call.
Mrs. Doyle? Here. Ms. Swain?
Here.
Mr. Marsh?
Here.
Mayor Burke?
Here. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 0623, creating a job description and job classification of technical assistant to construction official, TACO, and establishing the qualifications for the position.
I'd like to make a motion for the open public hearing on 0623.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Harry Kennedy, 1578 Fry's Mill Road. Mr. Mayor, the purpose of having a special taco for the construction official, what would you say the special purpose is?
It's just the job of the TACO. We need a technical assistant for construction.
And what qualifications do you believe are necessary for a taco?
She's passed they've taken the test, there's a class you gotta take, the certification you gotta get.
So has the person applying for the job had the certification?
Correct.
And do they have 2 years' experience in the position?
No.
Which is the recommendation by the state in terms of that position. So recommendation. Obviously, it's not a civil service position, so you have leeway. But it is the recommendation that it be 2 years. How long has this person been in the job? In that particular one, working for the construction
I
officer?
believe they got the training 6-8 months ago, maybe a little bit longer. Both of them had gotten the training.
Good. And this is a departure from the past in terms of the people that have worked in that office. I guess you had Lynn and Sissy for all those years.
Sissy was a technical assistant.
Right.
But it was never
that title.
formalized.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So this will take it out of the union, out of the bargaining unit, and be a confidential aid.
Correct.
And the confidential aid, you're also, I noticed, down to a 1 day a week zoning officer. Is that correct?
I think it's 2 days, 2 part-time days, 10 hours a week, I believe.
So it'll be 10 hours a week.
10 to 12.
And then for now. And I believe he's also working in Newfield. He used to work in Vineland at one time, I believe,
I
also.
only know him from Newfield.
Yeah. Yeah, the taco, in order to be a taco, I know it's a difficult concept, Mr. Solicitor, but in order to be a special assistant, you need a zoning officer. And if you're going to have one 2 days a week, it's pretty tough to be the assistant to somebody that's not there. But again, if you don't see the relationship, I can understand. But again, it's nice to see you formulating a new position at this time and a new salary and departing from the ways of the past there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Good. Can you get a motion to close the public hearing on 0623?
Make a motion to close public hearing on 0623.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Can I get a motion to approve ordinance 0623?
07.
0623. We'll approve that.
Right now. I'd like to make a motion to approve 0623.
Second. Those, Matt?
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Ms. Swain?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burke?
Yes. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing on 0723, establishing the salaries and wages of municipal officials and employees of the Township of Franklin?
Make a motion to open the public hearing on 0723.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi. Hi, good evening. Chris Sayers, 184 Malaga Lake Boulevard. I just had some questions about the way that the wages have been increased, or at least the range. How is that process? I personally don't know. So how does that process go?
I believe for this, because we added that title, correct?
Yes, sir.
Anytime you make any kind of change or go outside, before you go outside the plan, I believe you're supposed to.
Oh, and the last time the salaries were increased, was that in 21?
No, it was, we've done it January this year.
Oh, you did it in January this year. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I was looking at the different increases from previous years, and I was just surprised that some of the like a lot of the patrolmen, police officers only went up a few percent, but some of the other ones went up quite a bit since then. So I was just kind of curious as to how the process of how.
I believe, right, Matt? It's still inside the band. So.
Yeah. Because I was about to say, I guess, is there negotiations with the union as well for?
There was.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
all under contract.
All under contract. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all. I just appreciate it.
Can I get a motion to close 0723?
Make a motion to close 0723.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve ordinance 723?
Make a motion to approve 0723.
Second. Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Can I get a motion to open the first public portion for resolutions and ordinances below?
Make a motion to open first public portion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to close the first public portion?
I make a motion to close the first public portion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve correspondence and reports?
Make a motion to approve the correspondence and reports.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from April 11th, 2023?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from April 11th, 2023.
Second by the Stains.
Roll call, Matt, please. Tim's going to abstain.
Abstain. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Can I get a motion to approve the bill list?
Make a motion to approve the bill list.
Second.
Matt?
Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Can I get a motion to approve the farm stand permit?
Make a motion to approve the farm stand permit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 9923, approving a shared service agreement between the Township of Franklin and the County of Gloucester to provide family movie entertainment.
Make a motion to approve R9923.
Second. Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Matt, do you know what the movie is?
You have to pick it.
Yes, we can take it.
Resolution 123, authorizing the appointment of Jennifer Cerino as a technical assistant to the construction official.
Make a motion for R123.
Second. Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Resolution 10123, amending the duties of Desiree Hogbin, payroll clerk, and adding additional duties of confidential assistant to the administrator and clerk.
Make a motion for R10123.
Second. Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Resolution 10123, appointing Chase Farabella as a part-time zoning officer for the Township of Franklin.
Motion for R10223.
Second. Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Resolution 10323, providing an appointment of a hearing officer.
Make a motion for R10323.
Second. Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Resolution 10423, approving the purchase of a development easement on the farm property of Graiff Life Enterprises LLC, known as Block 5702, Lot 84.
Make a motion for R10423.
Second. Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Resolution 10523, approving emergency temporary budget.
Make a motion for R 10523. Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. We'll introduce the following ordinance. The public hearing will be on May 23rd, 2023. It's ordinance 823, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Make a motion to introduce 0823.
Second. Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Can I get a motion to open the second public portion for any comments?
Make a motion to open the second public portion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Dave Marshall, 67 New Road, Malaga. As you've noticed, I've been up to a couple meetings here and there in the past. And most of what I talk about is the same thing over and over. And after being at the planning board the last meeting and seeing the fiasco that happened from the agenda being posted so late, I figured I'd bring up a couple of those points again. Agendas, if you're following the Sunshine Law, are supposed to be posted at least 48 hours ahead of time for the public to view. That agenda did not get posted till 1 o'clock that day of the meeting.
Yeah,
It happens.
There was a little snafu with the woman that does the posting. Unfortunately, Sarah does the best.
I understand it. It's going to happen on occasion, but it's unfortunately there's a pretty decent pattern of it. Not being posted that day, but being posted late. And enough time for the public not to view it. And we talk about gaining trust, and that's not one way to do it. They need to be posted timely. They have to be posted so everybody can view them, including the board members. On that actual meeting, and it's been 2 other planning board meetings, there's been multiple members of the planning board that hadn't even looked at the agenda prior to the meeting. Their own comments stated so. How do they have time to review anything if they're going to make a decision on it if they don't get the agenda ahead of time? Or if they did, maybe there's a problem with those members and they shouldn't be sitting on that
I
board.
believe they get that agenda the week before.
All right.
They tell you that they get it way in advance. What you get posted on the website is what is in dispute. Like, that's the problem. And we agree with you.
All right. And like I said, if it's a problem where it's not getting posted, maybe that employee needs a talking to, maybe they need some help. Just like any business. If there's a person not doing it, it needs to be fixed because it's not a one-time occurrence.
Right.
It happens a lot. Minutes that are being posted have pieces missing from them. There's no excuse for that when there's a video posted usually 3 days afterwards that anybody can go back and view and see what happened. So if you didn't catch them all, which can happen, especially during the course of when everybody's talking, go back and view the video. You'll have plenty of time to put it in place and get it posted. There shouldn't be a reason that they're not there. It doesn't have to be word for word, but it's got to be a comprehensive listing of the minutes. That's part of the law. They have to be there. Like I said, I don't see any reason not to. And the same when I understand you guys have a lot of decisions to make. Every board does. But if there's something happening that night, again, our lives get in the way. I understand that. Take a little time to view the meeting that was posted on it before and get familiar with it before that meeting, instead of saying, I don't remember, because that happens a lot too in the different boards. Again, you have a lot, but there's ways of reviewing it to get back to that point. It's just something that it needs to change. Again, we've been talking about being open to the public. It has to happen. The public's only going to gain their trust when you're there for them and show you're there for them. It's that simple. There's every man is guilty of all the good that he did not do. Think about it for a little bit, and that'll let you know where we're at, or at least where I'm at. Thank you.
Good evening again. Chris Sayers, 184 Malaga Lake Boulevard. I received an email from a resident in Franklinville about a letter he received, a letter of intent of a solar panel company that wants to install a solar field off of Fry's Mill Road, 255 acres, I believe. It's that large field right off of Fry's Mill, bordered between Fry's Mill and Jackson Ave, I believe. Is there an official application yet that's been filed for that, or?
I'm not aware if it's been submitted or it's going to be submitted shortly.
So this is just the initiative of the company, I would assume, that's planning on.
Yeah, I mean, they have the right to submit an application.
Yeah, and I understand that area that's zoned for, it's not just agricultural, it's also zoned for I'm not quite sure of the zoning terminology, industrial or some,
It's like a mixed business.
yeah, mixed business area.
Yeah, there's pending litigation on it.
Okay.
But at this point, if they choose to apply to the planning board, that's within their.
There would be no need for a zoning variance or anything like that if they
That's
wanted
part
to.
of the litigation,
Okay.
and I'd have to defer to the zoning board to answer that. It's because they're part of the litigation.
Because I understand like a year or two ago, a company tried to do a similar, to install solar panels and
Same company.
same company. Okay. So they're characters that we deal with quite often. But that one was turned down. Was that because it was required a variance
It's
or
subject to the litigation.
It's just-
Substance. It was denied.
it was denied in the
At
litigation?
one point, the public record is denied.
Okay.
And that's part of the main elements of the current litigation that's still ongoing.
Okay. And is there any plans? I mean, I understand, I know everybody up there is very in favor of preserving rural land and farms and such. Is there any policies towards trying to preserve at least a portion of this area or?
Our chairman has, our secretary, our agriculture advisory committee has been in contact with the
Efforts were made, but nothing responded. Okay, and then after, I mean, once litigation, that's just, these decisions are made by a judge as opposed to, okay.
Well, no, the decision regarding the variance was made by the zoning board and then appealed to the judge. If they have do submit a planning application, that'll go through the standard protocol there with regard to review and potentially hearing.
And do you know offhand, I assume they have to by law mail this letter of intent. Is there any kind of like an amount of days, like 30 days before they file, they have to send this letter out, or is there any kind of like time frame?
Yeah, there's notice requirements.
Didn't they notify already?
Yeah, I know they requested the 200-foot list. Again, I'd have to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's only so much you know because they haven't filed, so.
To confirm that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good evening, Leah Vassallo, 560 Delsey Drive. And I just want to follow up on what Chris was saying, because I had the opportunity to watch that zoning board meeting. And it appeared that the applicant asked the zoning board to interpret whether solar panels were a permitted use on that property. And the main issue I have with this is my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that's property that Mr. Doyle rents and farms. The solicitor to the zoning board, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that he has also personally represented you in the past. Thirdly, one of the members of that zoning board, and I believe the deciding vote, because it was a split decision, I believe it was a 3-4 decision, and I believe the deciding vote was cast, or that one of the 4 votes that said, no, this isn't a permitted use, by a member of the zoning board who is also an employee of you, Mr. Doyle.
Not an employee of me. I know every member of the zoning board because I was up there for 10 years.
Okay, so Andy Hamill does not work for you, because that's what I heard, and that's why I said correct me if I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, that's fine. I accept that. I still think it was a mistake for Mr. Borelli to be involved in that decision, given his past history and your current use of the property, and obviously would prefer it not to be developed in a way that takes away farmland that you're presently farming. But that was just a tack on to what Chris was saying. The main reason I came up here is I got a mailer in the mail, and this is not a political question, this is an actual question, saying that the sale of tax lien certificates that the township held was beneficial short-term and long-term. And I'm very confused about that because most of those certificates we were earning 18% interest on when we held them. So I understand it gives you a short-term revenue stream. Selling assets always gives you a short-term revenue stream. But considering how many lawsuits are pending, considering the fact that taxes still went up, and considering that we have no disrespect to the township employees, they do the best they can, but we have pretty mediocre services. I don't understand how that's sound in the long term, because eventually you're going to run out of assets to sell. In the medium term, you're no longer generating 18% interest on those assets. You're now just getting the tax revenue, which the portion the township gets of the value of a property, for tax revenue is small. It's maybe 1%.
You don't think we should sell tax liens? You think we should just let people not pay the taxes?
It's not letting them not pay. It's accruing at 18% interest. If the amount of the owed on the tax lien exceeds the value of the property, then I'd say, yes, you should sell it. But in the meantime, I know, but that was $500,000 that we were getting 18% interest on per year up until they were sold. I mean, when we sat up there, you could say the same thing about it going to an accelerated tax sale. We deliberately built up the surplus so we could go back to a regular tax sale instead of an accelerated tax sale, because the township collects interest. In the meantime, there are very few investments that a township is allowed to make. And that's pretty much the only one that has any significant income attached to it. So short term, yes, it's a Band-Aid. When you run out of assets, you're going to have a big problem, because you suddenly don't have anything to sell, and you've already raised taxes, and you already don't have great services. So you can't cut services, you can't raise taxes, and you don't have any more assets to sell. I think it's a horrible long-term strategy. I think it's very much a short-term strategy. And the whole reason we went and put the surplus back in place and went to the non-accelerated tax sale and did all these things was so that if there was ever an emergency, you have those steps that you can take to patch a hole. But it's not meant to just bleed it out. That's what was done before that put us in a horrible situation, and I think it's being done again. Thank you.
I think we disagree.
Well, definitely we disagree.
2019, it was $90,000.
They taxes on the paper street was up there. How about that?
Harry Kennedy, 1578 Fry's Mill Road.
Not make sense. You just look it over. It's not,
No, you don't know what you're,
taxes.
you don't know what you're talking about.
That's why nobody can get through, because your vehicles are on it.
You don't know what you're talking about. Township could vacate it, and then we pay taxes.
Your clock is.
Barb's not here to keep time tonight for some reason. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure I am, Jake. Yeah, Harry Kennedy, 1578 Fry's Mill Road. Last week, I thought, to give you guys a compliment, I thought, although you weren't here, Mr. Doyle, I'm sure you would have seen it the same way. You decided to postpone any decision on the recommendation that had to do with marijuana and the growth and manufacturing facility. I thought that was a very wise decision. It was also interesting. I listened carefully to your solicitor. I especially love his estoppel things about things done improperly in the past that have to be taken into consideration as to what the present is. Well, Mr. Doyle, I heard you very clearly say that it's very important that everybody pay their taxes. Is that what I heard you say? Everybody should pay their fair share of taxes. And everybody should be up to date on their taxes. And everybody should pay whatever their assessed value was, they should pay it. That's something you stand by, right, Mr. Doyle? I know you do. I know you do. Whether it's a 40% with a tax abatement or 100% with a full assessment, you pay them. But it'll be interesting to see whether that full tax abatement was ever fully paid. That'll be an interesting topic of discussion in the next couple of weeks. But I have a question in regards to the marijuana. Has anybody approached the vendor or the person that made the application? I understand a very successful businessman with any other alternatives for other places he could put it?
Matt, have you had any conversations with him, Finley?
I have, sir.
There have been discussions. Okay. Yeah, good.
What was the discussion about? If you don't mind me asking.
Other locations in the town that he could possibly do, and then he was venturing into what people would want him to do at that site, since he's almost cleaned up the entire site from where it was.
Oh,
So
the gas tanks back.
All the tanks were removed. Yeah, I'm sure double remediation. But were some of those sites involving township-owned property, if I might ask?
only township-owned property.
Only township-owned property. So you're interested in relocating that marijuana facility to township-owned property?
No, I just asked him what he was looking for, and he gave me his basic parameters of what he would need.
And so you talked to him about township-owned property. Was some of that on Fry's Mill Road, Mr. Finley?
There's one location on Fries Mill Road, but it's all wetlands.
But, I mean, that was one of the areas that was discussed. Well, I mean, wetlands obviously haven't deterred you guys too much from development zones in the past. But in any case, that was one of the sites discussed, if I'm not mistaken, one of the sites on Fry's Mill Road as an alternative. The other question I had was I had a chance to look at the minutes of the planning board. And I noticed that there was a recommendation from the planning board that they were going to ask the Township Committee to get back to them as to how things went from the FAS site to the other two sites, to the Roan sites. Are you planning on answering that query, or is that privileged information? Mike Borelli, and that's the same Mike Borelli that gave us his opinion on the zoning law and the zoning board taking over and checking the marijuana facility. The same Mike Borelli that represented different people on the zoning board privately. And unless I mistook the solicitor, I believe there might have been some disagreement as to who actually had purview over that, but I'll let that go for now. The final thing I'd like to ask is, in terms of the Township Committee and moving forward, are we going to take a look at that Roan site and how it came to be and what happened? Because the three members that were here last week all were in favor of taking a good look at that and how it came to be. Is that still the case? I'm going to make a suggestion, Mr. Mayor, that...
asked the three people that were here that time.
Well, you weren't, yeah.
I wasn't here.
No, you weren't. You're right. You weren't here. You might not have the same opinion. But Franklin Township is a place that does not have an ethics board. And the nice thing about an ethics board is an ethics board has subpoena power. And an ethics board can bring in people to discuss. They can discuss such things as options. They can discuss such things as offerings. Might be something to decide in the future. Thank you, Barb. Take care.
Good evening, Nancy Kennedy, 711 St. George Street. So we thought Mr. Borelli was going to take care of figuring out where the recommendation for the wetland sites came from. That's correct?
Mr. Borelli sent me a letter. I believe we're talking about two planning board meetings, correct?
Two planning board meetings, yeah.
And the letter said, your letter was stated in future designations, we want to know this before it comes to us. That's the way it was stated.
Okay.
I haven't watched the meeting.
And you're not up to, and understandably, you're not on the...
The planning board meeting.
Yes.
Explain that to Mr. Kelly.
And Mr. Kelly was...
Maybe he misunderstood, but that's what Mike thought he was doing.
Okay. So you're waiting for a corrected question, so to speak, from the planning board, and then the Township Committee will address it at that time.
If the three people that talked about it want to do something about it, they're more than welcome to.
Wonderful. And I certainly hope that's the case, because as Ms. Vasallo pointed out, some of you up there are running on a platform of transparency. And since this is the second public portion, and I have the floor, I'm lucky enough to live in America and have the opportunity to speak my mind, as we all do. And I don't have many more opportunities to address her at a Township Committee meeting. I wanted to say to Deputy Mayor Flame, again, thank you for all that you have done for the Township of Franklin. I recently received campaign literature that indicated that the Executive Committee selected candidates to run for Township Committee, and it appears that you were not one of them. And in that literature, it also looked like the Executive Committee had the opportunity to review all candidates who were interested. But I know that isn't the case. I know that you made very clear to Mr. Doyle and to Mr. Deegan that you were interested in running for Township Committee. I know that you weren't given the opportunity to do so by Mr. Doyle and by Mr. Deegan. I know that you asked for a full hearing with the Executive Committee because some of those men and women are some of the greatest people in this township, and you were denied the opportunity to meet with the Executive Committee by Mr. Doyle and by Mr. Deegan. You have since chosen to run for a different position that would benefit the Township of Franklin, and I will do everything I can in my power to make sure that you get elected to that position, because you have done an outstanding job for the Township of Franklin. When I was the administrator, you helped save Iona Lake. When I was the administrator, you almost single-handedly led the fight to get school resource officers into our classrooms. When I was the administrator, you fought to get canine dogs onto the police force, and I know that you still continue to hold that as something you're very proud of. And so, for all the work you did for all of us, I thank you. I apologize for the somewhat misogynistic position that appears to have been taken, where now we have no women on the zoning board, no women on the planning board, and if Mr. Doyle and Mr. Deegan have their way, soon we will have no women on the Township Committee. And as somebody who respects intelligent women who have done an incredible job for this township, I again say thank you. Have a good evening.
Bring a motion to close the second public portion.
Make a motion to close the second public portion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Committee reports, Mike?
Golf is this Saturday. Looks like it's going to be a little bit of rain, but still.
Drizzle.
Money still spends in the rain. It's for a good cause for Community Day, so I'm hoping everyone does show up, rain or shine. It's going to be a good event.
President DeCesare did a wonderful job. 450 nice little leaguers giving me a high five.
Every single one.
When
Not everyone.
when you look out,
With a finger.
when you look out across the field and you can see 450 of our residents' children out there and getting ready to play, it hits home about COVID and where we were and where we now stand. To see those little guys out there and taking an effort into Little League, and I do like the parents' pledge prior to the whole thing. That was good. Hopefully they all adhere to it. It'd be nice to the officials. It's inspiring to see those children out there and starting to communicate again and starting to heal the wounds that COVID left that many of us don't even recognize. So for all your efforts, I do say thank you. What a wonderful day to be a part of. It was amazing. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to go over there and give high fives. That's it.
Mr. Kent? DPW's been doing a good job giving the parks the attention. The parks have not got the attention they deserve for the years. So those guys at the two beach parks, Franklinville and Mount Lake, hung the sand up, put the mulch down, cut some dead trees this year, keep it up nice. The community center's never looked better than it has right now since they built it. The guys are doing a professional job cleaning up mulch. Making sure the weeds are not in the parking lot and the grass and where they're not supposed to be. And early in the spring, we've already seen the difference. So keep up the good work.
And we just want to thank John Stippick for Earth Day cleanup down at Mount Lily. I know a handful of people went down to clean up, and the pictures that we saw, items and things coming out of the lake, amazing. But it's the residents like that care that keep our township moving forward and help us understand what really needs to happen.
He's a baseball coach too, isn't he?
He is. He's filling many hats.
Matt, I'm sorry. You have anything you want to?
Sure, I can.
Thank you. Actually, I have a few things. I just want to remind all residents that one of our biggest community policing efforts, the deadline to apply for Police Youth Week is May 1st. Police Youth Week this year is for current 5th and 6th graders in Franklin Township schools. And you can apply by contacting Sergeant Rojas here at the police station. And that runs from June 19th to June 24th. So make sure you get your application in. You only have a week left to do so before we have to start ordering uniforms and stuff like that. April's almost over. As I reported on earlier this year, we received a grant for aggressive driving. Our efforts are paying off. The enforcement that we're doing out there on the roads, we've reduced motor vehicle crashes within the township by almost 25%. From this time last year. So that's a big thing that we're proud of. The high visibility and enforcement efforts that we're doing in the community are really paying off to keep our streets safe. Monday, May 1st, the officers of the Franklin Township Police Department will be volunteering their time, as we do every year, to clean up the Gonzalez Memorial out front here. A rough time for our department's history. As you know, Sergeant Gonzalez, who was killed in the line of duty, we honor him every year by doing that cleanup, and it's something that we take pride in. So we'll be out here Monday morning if anybody wants to stop by and say hi. Thank you.
Matt, I got a question.
Yes.
How many kids play baseball this year? I mean, softball, baseball.
So we were roughly up about 130, 140 kids from last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And one other thing that I do want to touch on is I go to a lot of parks and baseball facilities, and I talk to a lot of people about baseball. And one thing that everybody says is how great our complex is. And I can honestly say it's one of the best around. So I want to thank Brian and Public Works for keeping the fields looking nice, and they really are great baseball facilities. So thank you. Anything else? No, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank Matt. Opening day was great. Like Heather said, there was a lot of kids out there, which is a good sign, I guess, for things to come. Also want to thank Public Works and the volunteers that help out to clean up the complex and Pennsylvania out there. It's not just the Public Works guys, it's through volunteers of the township that help out and stuff like that. Like Mike said, golf is Saturday. It's going to rain. It's for the fair hair guys. He's going to stay home. There's no hair. But being in the second year of a golf tournament and doing what they did the first year, it's just amazing that such infancy of the tournament that they're doing so well. They do a great job. They beat a lot, I tell you, every week. But they get the job done. Belinsky, all those guys, they get the job done. So kudos to them. If you're going to play Saturday, we'll see you there. With that said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming out.